All right, so this is a bit of a different type of series today. I announced it a little bit earlier, meaning this morning, in terms of what I was thinking of starting, and this is Chico's choices. I'm Champagne Chico. I gotta make my choices, and I gotta let y'all know who I think is gonna be winning throughout this week. And today, meaning Thursday, it's about to be happening in about like 3.5 hours. I had to stop one recording to get to this because I wanted to make sure I could get this out before. But the Vikings versus the Eagles is a pretty good matchup. One, because both teams did not have a good first week. That's a guarantee. Both teams didn't have the first week that they expected. The Vikings got beat by the Bucs, who everybody thought was going to be going 0 for 17, not legitimately, but to an extent. But Baker Mayfield looks good in that Bucs offense. The defense still looks great. You can't really go wrong with it. And the Eagles just barely got the win. They just barely got the win. So hopefully it turns out to be a good game with the Vikings and the Eagles. But me personally, I think I might have the Vikings. I think I might have the Vikings winning this. I think that they're going to go to Justin Jefferson a lot, even though they're having some contract disputes right now. I think it's going to be close, and I think the Vikings are hopefully going to win it. I might be wrong. I wanted to go Eagles, but something tells me that somehow Kirk Cousins is just going to go insane today, or Justin Jefferson. Alexander Madison's a great running back. Their defense is okay. I think they can get the win possibly if the Eagles are still kind of rusty. Both teams are trying to come back from a rough week. I think the Vikings want to get their first win on the season, especially making a statement versus the Philadelphia Eagles. But now, getting into the Sunday games, the 1 o'clock games, the Packers versus the Falcons. We got Jordan Love versus Desmond Ridder, both young quarterbacks with new starting jobs right now. Tyler Algier getting more of a goal line back type of thing, but I don't know if that's going to last very long with how good Bijan's been doing in his aspect of the backfield. I think the Packers are going to win. I do. Jordan Love looked great in the first game. I mean, it was against the Bears. They're still the Bears. They're still the Bears until proven otherwise, but I think the Falcons still have a lot to work on. They don't use Kyle Pitts enough. They don't use Drake London enough. I think that the Packers are going to come out on top just because they have a lot more experience in terms of certain players like Aaron Jones and the defensive side of things. The defense is very pivotal in this, and I think that the Packers really use their defense well in this game at Atlanta in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But the Raiders versus the Bills, I think this is going to be a blowout game with the Bills winning it. I think that's going to be what happens because with the way that Josh Allen played in week 1, getting 3 interceptions is not... It's not what you like to see from your star quarterback that's supposed to be getting paid the most. Stephon Diggs was trying to help him out, trying to motivate him, just couldn't get it done. I think the Bills come out, they really show who they are and get right back on track with James Cook possibly having a big game, Josh Allen having a big game. I just expect it to be an all-around good game for the Bills, and hopefully the defense can also have a good game because whenever you're letting Zach Wilson get downfield, that's concerning. Ravens versus Bengals. Always been a good matchup. It's always been good. The Ravens didn't have a great week the first week either. They had some bright spots, but Lamar Jackson got no touchdowns in terms of passing touchdowns, so that's a little concerning. The Bengals had an even worse week with a record low passing yards for Joe Burrow. I think it was like 78 or something like that. Horrible outing for Joe Burrow. It's going to be a hard-fought game for that 1 o'clock game. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think they're going to go back and forth. Hopefully the Ravens do utilize Odell a little more than they did in week 1. I actually have the Bengals winning. I don't think Joe Mixon has a bad game like he did in the first one. I think Joe Burrow comes back shooting. Jamar Chase getting some big touchdowns. T. Higgins doing his thing, even though he has a contract coming up. And the Seahawks versus the Lions, another 1 o'clock game. I like the Lions. I really do. Jahmyr Gibbs, one of my favorite prospects coming out of the draft. I thought he should have went basically as high as he went. I think that the Lions picked him very well in terms of what they needed if they were trying to move on from DeAndre Swift, which they ended up doing. Now, they signed Montgomery, who actually played very well in that game. Hopefully, they can split it a little bit more. Jahmyr Gibbs had like 7.8 yards per rush. You can't just let him sit on the sideline the whole time. I know that that Campbell said that he's going to bring him in more, which I hope that he pulls through on that. But the Lions, I do have them winning. I think they're going to have an amazing season this year. Jared Goff is doing his thing, and as long as he's doing his thing, I think the team can do very well. Chargers versus Titans. Chargers 100%. They barely lost to the Dolphins. The Dolphins played tremendously against the Chargers, but I think they come out and really do their thing against them. The Titans kind of on a downward spiral right now. I don't have a lot of confidence in them except for King Henry, and he can't do everything. He's getting older. His body is breaking down. Can't do everything. Simple as Chargers winning at Nissan Stadium. Bears versus Bucks. This is going to be an interesting game because it could be a really good one or it could be a bad one. And I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. Mike Evans is slowing down a little bit. Not going to be re-signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is unfortunate. You would think that everybody that thinks of the Bucs immediately thinks of Mike Evans, but he might not be coming back. I think that Justin Fields might have a good day. It's just that Bucs defense looked really good against the Vikings. I might have the Bucs coming out on top. So to recap a little bit, Vikings, Packers, Bills, Bengals, Lions, Chargers, Buccaneers. I'm going to have it going down at the end of the video, hopefully. But Chiefs versus Jaguars. You might be surprised. It depends on if Travis Kelce's back. If Travis Kelce is back, I have the Chiefs maybe winning by a little bit. The Jaguars are just hitting on all angles right now. Hitting on everything. Every wide receiver looks good. Travis Etienne looks good. Trevor Lawrence wheeling and dealing in that backfield. I think the Jaguars get their revenge on the Chiefs and get that win. In Jacksonville, too. Colts versus Texans. A young matchup between Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud. I think Colts. Anthony Richardson looks very good. Michael Pittman seems to be a good target for him. Even without Jonathan Taylor, they still look good. The defense is a little spotty, but I think I trust the Colts more to win that game than the Texans. And now starting with the 4 o'clock games. 49ers versus Rams. Always been a good matchup. The Rams looked a lot better than they usually do. I will say that. They looked very good in the first week. But the 49ers just look unstoppable. I think if barring injuries, I think the 49ers might win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to lie to you. No matter who's in the AFC coming out, I don't think somebody beats the 49ers unless some drastic injury happens. They look very good. I mean, it was the Steelers the first week, but they looked like they were toying with them. But 49ers, I think the Rams are still going to play decently. I still think they're going to lose by 20. Cardinals versus Giants. Giants. After that week 1, they have to make up for whatever that was. 40-0. You really allowed yourself to lose 40-0. Like, none. Like, absolutely nothing. Maybe a little sophomore slump for Brian Daboll. I don't know. But I know the Cardinals are probably not going to win. They're trying to tank as much as possible. James Conner is going to be getting that ball as much as possible as well. So it's just going to be a lot of running from the Cardinals. I don't think nothing's going to happen with that. Jets versus Cowboys. That Cowboys defense looked insane. And I think they're going to keep that up against Zach Wilson. Aaron Rodgers out for the season, unfortunately. I was really excited to watch him on the Jets, even though my favorite teams are in the same division as the Jets. But I think the Cowboys come out with this. I think the Jets come back to reality in terms of what they can do without Aaron Rodgers. They were able to beat the Bills. Just a really bad game by Josh Allen. I think the Cowboys do their thing against the Jets. And the Commanders versus the Broncos. Ooh, the Commanders look very promising. And I think with the tough loss that the Broncos had in week 1, I think they win this. I think they do. I think they do win that. I can't imagine that they go 0 for 2, especially with Sean Payton. He did decently on the play calling. You could see the rust a little bit. But I think they beat the Commanders. Ron Rivera and the Commanders probably take an L here. Broncos, Russell Wilson looked better than last year. I mean, he still had his moments, but Dolphins versus Patriots, Dolphins, that you can call me biased all you want. I don't care. The Dolphins look so good in week 1, almost too good. Almost too good, and hopefully they can keep that up. Tyreek Hill trying to have an MVP season, trying to be the first wide receiver to have MVP before even Justin Jefferson. And I think Tyreek Hill would fit that perfectly because on First Take, they were talking about if he's the scariest person or scariest player in the league. And I would think so. You can't pick up on him. You can't pick up his speed. So if you don't get ahead of him, he's going to get past you. And Tua is dealing in that pocket. So I think the Dolphins take that. And then Monday's a doubleheader, which is very interesting. Saints versus Panthers. I think the Panthers win it. I do think the Panthers win it. Saints kind of look iffy. They kind of look iffy. And I think Bryce Young finally has that type of game, and Miles Sanders does well as well. I mean, he did great in week 1 already. But I think Bryce Young got the rust off, got the nerves off. I think he's going to do well against the Saints defense, hopefully dealing on them. If I'm wrong, then we'll look at the record next week and we'll pick up on it. But Browns versus Steelers, Browns looked really good. Browns looked really good. The Steelers have an issue with Kenny Pickett in terms of being in big moments, in terms of being down by a lot and still being able to play without being nervous to do certain things and make certain decisions. So to recap on it, on all of it, my picks are the Vikings, the Packers, the Bills, the Bengals, the Lions, the Chargers, the Buccaneers, the Jaguars, the Colts, 49ers, Giants, Cowboys, Broncos, Dolphins, Panthers, and the Browns. I like it. I do like it. We're going to have to see how my record looks next week. Maybe I'm undefeated. Who knows? Maybe I'm guessing the upsets correctly and guessing certain things correctly. Because if the Vikings do beat the Eagles, I think that's an upset. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell doesn't seem like he's going to be playing this week. I think he's out for this week. So that's going to be difficult for their backfield. They're already struggling because they lost like 2 or 3 of their best players in their backfield last year. They have DeAndre Swift, but I think the Lions got rid of him for a reason. But we'll have to see next week in Tuesday. We're going to have the recap on Tuesday and see how my record looks next week. And hopefully we do well. Hopefully I'm undefeated. That's my ideal situation. Maybe I'll have to put a parlay up in Vegas. But yeah, I will see you in the next one. Hopefully on Tuesday when we're undefeated.